I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Open up my eyes! I never misspelled anything! Not once, not one time!
So in 2015, when The Force Awakens came out, I took it upon myself to review every single Star Wars movie leading up to that film. I talked about the holiday special, even the animated Clone Wars film. I was very happy to have all of those reviews done, because I like the idea of being a completionist when it comes to reviews. I like covering a wide variety of topics. I like having a nice archive of reviews for people to come and watch. And with The Last Jedi coming out, I thought to myself, wow, I'm so happy I've reviewed all the Star Wars movies. And then something began to eat away at the back of my mind. Something was nagging at me. And I realized what it was. The made-for-television Ewok movies. Oh my God. It wasn't until the past few years that I even knew these things existed. I have never seen them before, and I tracked down a DVD of both of them, and I watched the very first one, Caravan of Courage. Made for television in the year 1984, takes place between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Let's talk about it. So despite the Ewoks' negative reception in Return of the Jedi, someone somewhere must have liked them. This entire film is narrated by Burl Ives, who you might recognize from things like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He has a very famous voice. And Lucasfilm must have learned their lesson from the notoriously awful holiday special, which featured Wookiees talking to each other with no subtitles and barely any human beings to interact with. So you had no idea what was actually happening, because this time around, this narrator quite often explains the plot for us.
In an Ewok village on the moon of Endor, Deej tries to summon two of his sons who went into the woods and have not returned. He fears they may be lost.
So this movie's a giant bore. It's one of the most uneventful Star Wars films I've ever seen in my life. And it'd be easy for me to be like, well, this is just aimed at kids. Kids of the 80s who wanted to sit down with their families around the holidays and watch this on television. And sure, if you were a kid and this came out, you might have some nostalgia for it. I've never seen this before. So I'm looking at this through fresh adult eyes. And it is one of the most dull and boring films I've seen in a while. For instance, one of my favorite parts of this movie are these two Ewoks kicking each other's asses. Because it's just two Ewoks fighting. And that's the entertainment value that we're talking about here. But for the most part, this entire film is about this family that crash landed here on Endor. A young girl, her brother, and their parents who have been separated and abducted by this giant called the Gorax. And the girl and the boy go on a journey with the Ewoks to try to find his hidden mountain fortress. And a whole bunch of magical things happen along the way that are never explained, despite our narration that helps us out often.
One tree in the primeval forest contains a special fluid which only Ewoks know. They have used it for generations to cure their ills.
And unfortunately, these two kids don't have much experience acting. For the young girl, it was her first film. For the boy, he's somehow even worse.
Just don't worry, we'll stay in the Star Cruiser until they get back. I will protect you. I will be Mom and Dad.
On the bright side, I am a fan of matte paintings, and this film has some really good ones. So eventually, giant Pumbaa attacks the two kids, and they get stuck in a tree, and they decide to just kind of go to sleep. And it just fades out, and then when they wake up, the Ewoks are fighting Pumbaa.
Is it gone?
Yeah, I think so, but we better spend the night. Just get some rest. Just get some rest.
And this right here is where it becomes very apparent that it was made for television, because this film relies on those commercial breaks, those fades to black, and then the desire to get up and do something else while a commercial is going on for its pacing to work. They're relying on audience members to get up and go to the bathroom or get some popcorn out of the microwave or something, so they have that disconnect, so that when the movie fades back in after whatever commercials they were watching, it feels like the passage of time is correct. But when you sit down and just watch this movie, without the commercial breaks, the timing of everything and the pacing is thrown off. And that's a sign of a really bad made-for-TV movie, when they rely on those commercial breaks to make the pacing work, when it feels like it's overseen by a network, like it's some corporate product, One of the best ever is Stephen King's Storm of the Century. It's actually a mini-series. It's not quite a made-for-TV movie, but it just feels like a film when you watch it from beginning to end. It doesn't need that break to make the pacing flow. Now, this is one of the most difficult scenes to explain because it makes absolutely no sense, but it's also the first scene that lets you know that a lot of things are going to happen in this film that don't make sense. The kids visit a mystical Ewok who spins a giant top that shows them where their parents are. They're being held captive by a giant Gorax. And then they perform some kind of ceremony where everyone is given a specific item. The boy gets a rock, the girl gets a candle, and then these stupid feather things are given to the Ewoks.
Kick, Tonto, kick.
I don't want a rock.
Chuck, chuck, chuck.
So with their special items in tow, the Caravan of Courage sets out for the Gorax hideaway. And along the way, a tree falls down because an Ewok chops it down with an axe, and the boy's angry reaction is extremely delayed.
You better watch out, you nearly killed us! I'm warning you.
So this Ewok decides to join them on their journey to try to save their parents, but before doing so, they engage in an axe-throwing contest.
Pizza. Eat Chupatron.
Now right around here, I paused it to see how much I had left because it was just getting too much for me, and I realized I was only halfway through. I'm showing you the highlights, okay? Honestly, I struggled watching this. The majority of this movie is just these kids walking around with Ewoks, and then Wicket going...
Star Cruiser? Star Cruiser. And it crashed. Crashed? Crashed. Star Cruiser. Crashed.
Yeah, that's it. Don't you have a Star Cruiser?
Star Cruiser.
So another mystical Ewok puts something in the kid's hand and it turns into a lizard. Then the little girl picks it up and it turns into a mouse. And because of whatever just happened, this wizard-like Ewok agrees to go with them on their journey. Despite the narrator explaining everything else, he doesn't explain that. Then the kid is looking at some water and he touches it for some reason and he gets zapped underneath, even though his reflection remains. There's an entire pointless action scene where this horse runs away with a little girl trapped inside and Ewok has to slow the horse down and calm him. It's like they're scrambling to find something to do besides walk around. Because that's all this movie is just some kids walking to a mountain. It's like Lord of the Rings, except not good. Eventually Tinkerbell shows up, and then a whole bunch of other Tinkerbells. And then the little girl is like, oh, I have a candle. I'm going to put the candle down. And all the Tinkerbells form a little Tinkerbell tornado and go inside the candle and then come out as one Tinkerbell.
Hey, look what I got.
What actually is happening in this movie? There's a narrator explaining things left and right, but they don't explain anything that doesn't make sense. So eventually they make it to the mountain where the Gorax lives, and the kid's special rock opens up and he has some kind of key that lets them inside. There's a giant fucking spider, and one of the Ewoks uses his magical walking stick to hypnotize the spider. Then Wicket fucking shanks a spider, like straight up stabs a spider multiple times. It's one of the better parts of the film. So the kid catapults himself up to his parents to free them, and he does. The giant sees them and wreaks havoc on the very obvious walls of the film set. And my favorite part of the film happens.
Oh no! Come on!
Yes, my favorite part of the film is when an Ewok is crushed by a bunch of falling rocks. And unfortunately, this poor child has to act sad because the Ewok dies. And apparently the one Ewok's magical green stone on his walking stick can not only hypnotize giant spiders, it can make rocks fall from the ceiling of this mountain. And the kid has to throw the axe, which is, I guess, like a big arc for his Ewok friend who taught him how to throw an axe, and then he died. So that's like the big moment of the movie. So now that the family's reunited, everybody goes back home and dances. It's not to Yub Nub, though, unfortunately. It's to something else. I don't know, some song that they dance to. Caravan of Courage is nowhere near as bad as the holiday special. It's not that embarrassing. It's just painfully uneventful. And nothing happens, really. Just kids walking around with Ewoks and some weird magical shit happens. The best this movie has to offer is sort of a nostalgic feel for 1980s television, but I've never seen it before, so I couldn't even connect with that. Oh shit, there's another one. It's called Battle for Endor. Stay tuned for that review. Coming soon. Guys, thank you so much, as always, for watching. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.